Hello, welcome back to the Insect Podcast. Zoya podcast producer here. This week we're joined by Planet Labs, a company at the forefront of high-resolution satellite imagery and geospatial data for insurance and risk management. With a fleet of over 200 satellites capturing daily images of the Earth's surface, Planet Labs provides insurers with pre- and post-event data for claims, fire and flood modelling, and parametric insurance solutions. Joining Matthew this week is Berend de Jong, Global Insurance and Finance Lead at Planet Labs. Berend shares real-world examples, including wildfire detection in Los Angeles, flood assessments in Germany, and agricultural insurance programs protecting millions worldwide. Berend also shares a very personal story about his career journey at the end of the podcast. Stay tuned, and there is something for us all in his message. Now let's dive into the conversation.
Berend, really looking forward to talking to you today. We are a truly global podcast and we're going to be talking about aerial imagery, but I believe you're calling in from the Netherlands today. What's life like there just now?
A pleasure to be here, Matthew. Yeah, the Netherlands is now fantastic, grey, overcast, very much like you probably have in the UK, I guess.
Well, we do, but you've got the benefit of working for a company that can, I guess, if not predict what's going on, at least tell you what the weather is all around the world. It must be fascinating. So we're going to be talking about Planet Labs, and let's just do like a quick overview to who the company is, and then really interested in learning more about what we're up to. So Planet Labs, you're providing high-resolution satellite images and geospatial data. You're using a fleet of over 200 satellites. Definitely talk about that. And you're capturing daily images of the Earth's surface, and you've got those going back to 2017. And that data is being used both pre and post loss assessment for insurers. And you've also got data sets for fire and flood risk modeling and solutions for parametric insurance. You've been listed on the New York Stock Exchange since 2021. And Berend, you're global insurance and finance lead. Well, we'll obviously dig into that a bit more, but anything important I missed out before we kick off?
No, very complete overview. Thank you.
So in a nutshell, what problem are you solving for insurance companies?
At Planet Labs, we service two main product lines within insurance. One is agriculture insurance, and there we provide parametric solutions for droughts, as well as pre- and post-event data for claims, and property insurance for commercial lines and residential. There we provide also for claims, pre- and post-event data, as well as long time series to improve risk models for fire and for flood.
How should people think about what is state of the art? What is the latest technology available now in satellite imagery?
Yeah, state of the art is a discussion that tends to gear towards resolution. And resolution of data is very important, but other aspects of satellite data are perhaps even more so. Just 2 weeks ago, 14th of January, we launched another 36 satellites from Vandenberg Air Force Base. Those are satellites, Planet Doves, that we use to monitor the Earth since 2017. The resolution of those satellites is 3 meters, and you could argue just 3 meters. 1 pixel is 3 meters, but it is a consistent data set that measures the whole Earth, and that allows us to look at any event that has occurred after 2017 and what happened to it. Then a second aspect of resolution is the possibility to task satellites to look into detail. For that, we have SkySat satellites, or the successor Pelicans. And these satellites, you can pretty much task them yourself. You could do it right now to look at the damage of Eowyn, for example, over Ireland. And the resolution of those satellites ranges from 50 centimeters. So you can see car damage or damages to roofs, to 40 or even 30 centimeters later.
That's quite extraordinary. 30 to 40 centimeters resolution. Those are for the satellites you're tasking. Just out of interest, if you've got to task a satellite to look specifically at a location, what's the kind of cost of doing that?
Part of the solution that we're offering is that we're making it consumer friendly, both in its use. So tasking a satellite is something that you and I could do without any training. It's really like typing in a location somewhere on the planet. And then to get a picture, and you could get it in 3 hours time if you want to do an express task, or in 12 hours or in 2 weeks, depending on the urgency that you have for the data. that would cost on average $300 or 270 euros for one picture of 5 by 5 kilometers.
That's incredible. So what you're saying is if I had some kind of business relationship with Planet, I could go on, log in somewhere, say, please take an image of this location, and within half a day, for I think £300, you said, roughly €300, $300, roughly.
Yep.
You can get that image back with a 5 kilometer square. Is that what you said in there?
Anywhere on Earth.
It's extraordinary.
Yes.
Yes, it really has moved on. So, can you also, people talk about optical satellites. They talk about SAR, which is synthetic aperture radar, which operates slightly differently than optical. Just for those that aren't familiar with their satellite acronyms, and probably also a little bit about where some work better than others, can you just give a quick sort of quick guide to how those operate?
Absolutely. Optical satellites are very much like your camera on your phone. They take a picture of the spectrum that you and I can see with our eyes. SAR is using an active radar signal to punch through clouds or to smoke. So the upside of that technology is that it's not hindered by clouds. Optical satellites can take pictures of the top side of clouds if you're in a cloudy environment, which makes it less useful in those situations. So Planet, we combine things. So there are commercial and public providers of SAR data. We also very much like passive microwave data, which is even a different technology, also being able to see through clouds. My personal view is that from an insurance perspective, the combination of sensors, depending on the use case that you need it for, is where the power lies. So it's not one solution that will most often bring a full service, but a combination of these.
Now, I want to switch a bit to some real life examples. And I had a look at your LinkedIn profile. You have got an extraordinary number of impressions, 50,000, I think, when I last looked. It's even more than when I did an image of podcasting from my hotel bedroom once. But your challenge now, Berend, is we're on a podcast, but you actually had 2 really interesting maps you were showing. So can you just talk us through what was being shown in those maps and why were those so popular? And I should have added, of course, it was for the LA wildfires that were occurring a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah. So the LA wildfires drew in a lot of attention in general, but also for the data that we have provided. So the fire started on the 7th of January, on a Tuesday. And because we're scanning the whole Earth every day, and the concept is important, we had data just by default the next day. So on 8th of January. Airplanes, because of the smoke and the heat and the wind, were not allowed to fly until Friday. Then what happened is that there was a fire starting, this was last week, Wednesday, in the Hughes area, just north of Los Angeles. There was a large fire that started very quickly. We happened to have an overpass at around 10:16 in the morning Pacific time. And then another one just 39 minutes later at 10:55 Pacific. And on the first picture, you didn't see any smoke. There was nothing visible. And on the second one, there was a plume of 2 miles by 6 miles. So we can do metric system. So 10 kilometers by 3 to 4 kilometers wide. And that emerged in just 39 minutes. So this data and this type of data shows that it's very valuable for getting timestamps of reality. And it gives the possibility to look back in time. And so these wildfires, we can track back as long as they happened after 2017. What was the situation in the morning at around 9:30 when those 180 Planet doves flying over?
Which, of course, is also relevant for floods, that ability to not just get one image of the event or one image after an event, but actually as the event evolves. I can see it's really valuable. It'd be helpful just to understand a little bit of what the use cases are for your clients when they're using your data, presumably the point of underwriting or risk selection.
Yeah, so post-event data for loss adjusters, the data also for the LA wildfires had immediate value because of the timeliness of it. So we were able to produce the 3-meter data on the 8th of January, as well as 50 centimeter SkySat data on the Wednesday and the Thursday. Microsoft is one of our partners. They have an AI for good part of the company. And they produced on 8th of January, so that's the day after the fires were known, at around 2 p.m., an analysis that made a first assessment of the impact of the Palisades fire. So they then estimated that 2,355 buildings were damaged by fire. It's partial information because it was just one of the 2 or 3 fires that were burning at the time. Also, there were partly clouds over the environment, but it did give a very good impression of the size of the fire and a quantified view of reality. And I think going forward, insurance companies are really building up to these solutions where quantified impact of our world is becoming visible quickly. And satellites have an important part to play, not a full one, because of course, aerial, once you can fly over it, give much more detailed information and granular information.
But you're getting a fast turnaround, which is really what a lot of people need to know very quickly for lots of reasons. And then what about that pre-event, pre-underwriting or underwriting use case? How are people using your data when it comes to the point of deciding who to insure and what price they should charge and any conditions on the policies?
So, for example, insurance company in North America that uses our base maps of the continent. So we produced every month a base map with a resolution of 5 meters that shows where there are trees, where there are no trees. And those base maps, also combining different bands, which can be used for analysis, are used by this company to make a very refined wildfire risk model. And they provide residential fire insurance. So this map allows them to provide cover where their competitors are not able to go, because they have a much more refined view, not zip code or postcode based, on reality. This is one example. Another example is in the flood environment. We're working with a company called Floodbase, a very professional company providing parametric solution. And Floodbase is using our data to create refined flood risk models that allow them to provide solutions for golf courses, for example. And it has to do with the high resolution and the consistency of the data that we're able to provide.
No, well, we know Floodbase very well. And in fact, there's a podcast that went out about 4 weeks ago talking about exactly that example, working with the broker Amwins about how they're looking at parametric insurance for golf courses. So yeah, it's great to know you're all working together. So just touching on parametric as well, I was interested to read that you're working with AXA and Swiss Re, 2 of the largest underwriters of parametric. Can you just to expand that a little bit? You mentioned the Floodbase example, but what else you're doing, and if you're able to share any numbers or sort of give a sense of the scale of what you're working with or the premiums being generated, that'd be really interesting as well.
With AXA and Swiss Re, we've been working together since 2017. And with them, we've built a global network of parametric solution that is specific for agriculture insurance. So we're providing drought index insurance now in 20 countries. And the total insurance premium that runs through the system is over 37 million. So there are certain countries, Kazakhstan, the Horn of Africa, where we provide really coverage for all farmers in those countries. And the DRIVE program in the Horn of Africa is insuring now 3 million pastoralists and their families as of 2024. So what is nice to see there is that this very specific targeted solution is running at scale, and it's now servicing not a nice project or not provide some nice pictures, but it's really helping a whole community or a whole country.
It's been fascinating to see how that area of parametric has developed, the agricultural use case, and 37 million, I think it was dollars, you're part of that support. So yeah, lots of good things there. I know that's only going to grow. I know you've got some other examples of where success stories of people using your data, but is there anything else you can share that's publicly available about how clients have used your information in underwriting or post-underwriting?
Yeah, so maybe taking an example in the commercial space, so commercial property space. There was a case in June 2024 when we had those floodings in Germany. So the southern part of Germany experienced a lot of floods, including the River Donau. One of our clients, a very large insurance company, I cannot name them, they had a client that put in a claim for a flood of their factory that was right next to the river. They tasked a satellite to have a look at the point of the high point of the flood, and by taking that timestamped view of reality, they could clearly see that it was not the river that caused the flood in the factory, but it was a extreme rain event. And that proved it was a pluvial flood, not a fluvial flood.
So, just for those that don't speak flooding language, fluvial is a riverborne flood, and pluvial is a rainborne flood. Now, we talked a bit about cost. That was only really for deploying one satellite to one location. Traditionally, satellite imagery, certainly high resolution imagery, has been really expensive, but I'm guessing the costs are coming down. Again, helpful if you could just give us a sense about what people would expect to pay, or what's happening in the technology to bring the cost down.
The whole idea of bringing costs down is part of what we're doing. So the satellites consist of standard components, not of detailed designed, long engineering cycle stuff, but things that we can buy off the shelf and shoot up into the sky. So it's standard components that are flying around. A subscription to get access to our global PlanetScope data. So for you to be able to look at the ice skating ring that blew up with Eowyn, or have a look at a wildfire that's happening in Australia, or the wildfire that's in LA, starts at 30,000 US dollars, euros, pounds, indeed. And that allows you to go through streaming data, daily data, and have a look at the base maps. Of course, if you want to analyze it, there are different business models, but the basis access fees are really, really affordable, I think.
And how does that work then in terms of delivery? Because insurance companies vary in their own willingness and technical ability to be able to bring that kind of data in. I know you talked about Floodbase as one partner. Are you also working with companies to help deliver the insights to the end insurer?
Yes, we're working with multiple partners. Another one is McKinsey Intelligence. They have an application called Geo. Your audience probably knows them. They're a really good company. They integrate multiple satellite sources to monitor large events. I mentioned AXA and Swiss Re in the ag insurance space, but we also work with companies like Green Triangle, Planet Watchers, typically companies that build a deeper solution on top of our data and that provide multiple satellite data sources and a more end-to-end solution to customers in that segment.
Excellent. Well, we know McKinsey Intelligence Services very well. And then, from a practical point of view, what are the end consumers actually getting when they use this data? You talk about imagery, but are they also getting things like damage estimates and actually data they can roll straight into loss assessments?
The role of Planet is to provide the best observed data of this world. And we provide some analytics, a thin layer of reporting, but in principle, we have a strategy that is dependent on partners like McKinsey, like Floodbase, like Swiss Re, that provide end-to-end solutions to our customers. So different to other organizations, that we're not providing a full end-to-end solution because we believe the market is too different and other companies are much better set up to do that.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And then, sort of related to that, as people think about making choices about who they should work with to get access to aerial imagery, so I'm throwing that quite broad, and you talked about airplanes and other things beforehand. But what sort of advice can you give to people about how they should think about making that selection, and what kind of research should they do?
Yeah, of course, I'm not completely objective in that, Matthew. So for this, if I would work for a large insurance company and I would be responsible for claims, I would want to have the data just as another data source, an objective data source. Especially at the price point that I just mentioned, I think the question should be the other way around. Why are you not using that data? And I would also not limit it to our data source. I would also include other views. We are making it very easy to access our data. So large insurance companies get access via a platform which is called Planet Explorer. It works like Google Maps. So you just type in location and then you can see the pre-event, post-event data, or you can even task a satellite in that platform.
And in a few weeks, we'll be delighted to have you joining us for our exponential risk event in London on the 4th and 5th of March. And thank you for your support for that, Berend. I guess a couple of related questions. So what can people expect to hear about when you're there? And also, given that you're coming in from the Netherlands, what also can you show people whilst you're over here in London who are interested in learning more about what you're doing at Planet Labs?
Well, I'm very happy that you're having us on the wildfire panel specifically. I'm very happy that I'm part of an expert group of true industry experts. So Sarah Russell of Bellwether is chairing this session. I think what I can bring on the conference is the specific capabilities that these new data sources, like the ones we're providing, are bringing to the modeling world. And my limited experience in this industry and the modeling world tells me that the modeling world is very much used to having very long time series Excel-based modeled environments, but not using the observed world in it. And I think that is very different with the technologies like the ones we're bringing. It is now possible to immediately validate a model. To look at the model and says, no, it's wrong. Why? Because the flooding is there. I can see it. And with the compute power, with these huge data sets that we're providing, I think this needs to merge. And models can improve much, much more in resolution, in the quality of their outputs by including such type of data sets.
No, I mean, I'm really pleased that's the angle you're taking, because this is a big theme for this conference, is around that education of helping people understand models, analytics, spreadsheets, whatever you're using can go so far, but you've got to take a sort of look up from your desk, look around you. I was very fortunate actually in the early stage of my career to go out to Northridge, and when there was an earthquake there back in the early 90s, and see firsthand. I mean, you also really can't quite do that, but to see the images and compare those to the numbers is really valuable. So I'm really pleased you're going to be talking about that. Well, Berend, just before we wrap up, you sound very passionate about this and knowledgeable. But what was it that took you from a career in consulting to take responsibility for the insurance market, working for technology companies such as Planet Labs?
Thanks for that question, Matthew. And I'll give you a very personal answer. So I had a long and shiny career in consulting, with my last job working for Accenture, big corporate job, big corporate life as well. And then personal disaster struck because my wife passed away from breast cancer. And that was a disaster for me, for the children. But it was also a highlight in a very different dimension, because she loved her work. She worked until 3 weeks before she passed away. And it made me realize how important work was in my life and how selfish I needed to be to do something that I really, really liked. And then something happened. A friend passed on this opportunity. Vennerset, now part of Planet, small startup, sexy technology, everything about satellites, building up a business in something that doesn't exist. So that's how I ended up in 2019 at Vennerset, which is now acquired by Planet.
Well, Berend, that's a very personal story. I'm very sorry to hear that, and thank you for sharing. And I think all I can say is it's great to see that out of tragedy, you've clearly got a career now. At least certainly, what I'm talking to you, that gives you a lot of passion, and and that does a lot of good in the world. So, gosh, thank you very much for sharing the full story, and thank you for sharing that. And look forward to seeing you face to face in a few weeks' time. And then finally, for anybody that wants to contact you, they can either see you in London, but they want to contact you in advance, contact Planet. What's the best way of doing that?
Yeah, thank you for having me, Matthew. And people that are interested or want to test some of our data, or just an open discussion, they could reach out on LinkedIn, Berend de Jong, or send me an email at berendejong@planet.com.
And we'll put that in the episode notes. Berend, you've been very gracious. I've learned a lot, as always. Thank you very much.
Yeah, likewise. Thank you so much.
Well, if you've made it this far, then I'm pretty sure you found that as interesting as I did. If you haven't already heard, Exponential Risk London is a new 2-day conference hosted by Instech, dedicated to addressing the evolving needs of the global catastrophe and climate modelling community. Tickets are now on sale, and hopefully we'll see you in March. That's all from us this week. Goodbye.